dum 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 dum
Space between.
Yeah, what's going on? This is the Space Between podcast where we struggle with new fucking software. I am Pat Shand.
I'm Amy Shand.
Yeah, and you know what, Amy? I have to say it, okay?
What?
You're stressing me out a little bit. Because this is a bonus episode, just so you guys know.
So why are you stressing?
I'm fucking stressing because when we started this, right? I was like, hey, do you want to be a part of this, you know? And what did you say?
I don't even remember because I'm not stressed.
No, I want you to be a part of it, okay?
Yes.
I want you to be in my world, okay?
Okay.
And when we first started, Amy pulls back her beautiful locks, right? And she says, I can't stand my fucking hair, she said.
That's not what I said, Josh.
What did you say?
You were
No,
there.
we haven't introduced Josh yet, okay?
Well, he was there, and that's not what I fucking said.
Okay. So you're
I said
stressing
I need
about
a haircut like everyone else in quarantine right now. So what?
you're stressing about the hair, you're petting a cat in your lap like a villain, you know?
He's my cat.
Okay. I'm happy to welcome back our kind of first ever return guest. This is Josh Blaylock of Devil's Due Comics. What's going on, man?
Hello.
Hey, I'm sitting here in lockup in the joint that is my house. Glad to be back.
Well, dude, I mean, look
You should
at
just say
what's-
friend of the show.
Oh yeah, friend of the show, Josh Blaylock, you know? But I'm feeling kind of like you're going to become an enemy of the show because your background is so much better than ours.
Before we started recording, I was like, he has a way better background than us.
Oh, it's so much better.
Oh, this is because I was like, this goes back to the videos we did, not your podcast, but the Devil's Due videos.
Yeah.
I was doing, like, it's always been something we wanted to do to get the streaming up and running, and now, like, Corona's got everyone fucking streaming.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, all right, we're gonna do this, and it took 3 days. I barely did shit for 3 days, and a lot of it was dumb stuff, like the stuff I thought was gonna be simple,
Right.
just getting the internet to work right and everything, because now the internet's dragging, and unfortunately, at the end of the day, some of the solutions were just money. It
Right.
was like, you got to go buy this better Wi-Fi booster and all that shit. But setting up the little fake kind of Comic-Con booth, a little background, that's the easy part, and then getting the cameras to work right, and then I kind of know what I'm doing now. It's kind of scary.
Yeah. I mean, you're looking good there, sandwich.
This is not even a good camera. This is the shitty laptop camera.
Oh, so
I got
you have
the tripod
an actual point and shoot camera?
I got the iPhone camera is way better than the laptop, and then my wife has a really nice DSLR camera or whatever, and I don't know if it does video streaming. Some of those I was reading suck for that. They're made for photography and they don't stream well.
Yeah.
And that was after I'd spent like 2.5 days, I was like, we got to do something. We're done.
Right.
I'll go back and revisit that later.
There was one time where Amy and I were going shopping for a camera for our vlog, and we went to a camera store in New York City where they had nothing but cameras, and they were going out of business. And we asked the guy what kind of camera would be good for just shooting simple video, and he says, "What iPhone do you have?" And Amy told him, "Bet that must have been like a 7." And the guy goes, "Any iPhone." Better than any camera. I was like, God damn.
At least in his store.
Yeah.
Like the new ones. I mean, here's a little like here. I don't know what kind I have. It's not the newest one. I think it's a 10 XRs. I don't know. The new ones are even like the little evil looking like cyborg triple eyes. Like
Yeah,
that
once
one's
they
got.
get into
what I have,
like
man.
having like the portrait mode and all the other cool stuff, it's really, really fun to play around with.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's looking good. You're kind of sandwiched between a pair of breasts and a penguin, and that's a good look for you.
Sorry, my Dan Leister illustrated boobs.
Yeah.
I didn't really plan it that way. Usually this is farther back, but now.
Oh,
I feel like-
gotcha.
That tends to be what attracts to some people at the
I want
Comic-Con.
to. Yeah, I'm trying to keep the viewers be like eyes over here.
Oh, that's true.
It's
Yeah.
far over.
Yeah. I mean, I heard that the people were starting to call you Motorboat and Josh. You know.
Oh my god.
It's not gonna happen.
But yeah. So listen. I have some simple questions for you, and then we can get into some more stuff. And Amy, feel free to chime in whenever you like, because as you mentioned before, you know we're on quarantine and we're all experiencing that in different ways. Like, how many times, for instance, have you showered this week? Because you're looking freshly showered now, but that could be very deceptive. You know, you could have not showered for the past 6-7 days. You know.
Oh shit! Podcast today.
Yeah, I mean, I just showered for the first time in what, like 4 days?
That's not true. I don't think it's true.
You know
Because
what? I have like I was letting the beard grow a little farther just
Yeah.
because you know that's what we're doing now. My one buddy, he's like, you know, we're all coming out of this with man buns, right?
Oh
But,
God, yeah.
I grabbed my razor today and didn't realize it didn't have the extender on it, and I went zhurp, and I cut off.
All gone.
I was like, oh, I gotta trim now, and then
Yeah.
no, I've been doing that at least every other day.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
I have been doing, because I'm a freak, is I've been doing the Wim Hof method.
What's that?
So I've over the last year got more and more into like you do like a cold shower and then you do rotate cold hot.
Oh, dude. Okay.
And I've built up the tolerance to do a freezing cold shower for like a while. And there's all these beneficial reasons to do it, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna say why.
I don't want to bore everyone to death with all the
I'm
reasons
gonna
why,
look it
but
up.
we can totally go. Yeah. Well, then like I came across this dude named it's WIM is his
Okay.
first name, HOF, not Hasselhoff, but HOF is his last name. He's this. I don't know. The interviews say like 3 different like Norwegian, Swedish like type of nationalities. They
Yeah, I
keep
mean,
mixing
he sounds real Turkish. Yeah.
so it's basically it's like an ice bath, but I don't the water in Chicago right now is cold enough in your tub. I had like been doing like up to like 10 minutes in freezing cold like bath,
Yeah.
and so then you can feel alive in quarantine.
Jesus Christ, dude. I mean,
Ask Pat. That sounds like torture to me because my showers are like seething hot. Pat can't even get in my shower.
oh, it's yeah.
What's amazing is the switch back and forth.
That's like getting
Right.
from a jacuzzi and jumping into the pool. You know.
But check out just for fucking streaming like video watching.
Yeah.
Go watch the Vice documentary on Wim Hof because
I love those
he-
documentaries.
he's this guy has this tragic story and he just sort of like stumbled into this technique, but what he's doing is what the Shaolin monks do in these mountains that, you know, like are real, that they're measured and no one knows how the hell they do it and they study their whole lives to do it. He kind of hacks some of that shit and he can stay in submerged like ice water
Yeah.
for 2 hours without his core body temperature changing. He can hold his breath like super long time, do all this stuff, and he's like they injected him with I think it was E. coli, like really serious dosage of like toxic bacteria,
Yeah.
and nothing happened to him. So they're like, you're a freak of nature, and he's like, no, I can train anyone to do this. And they're like, well, prove it, and he did. He trains people in like 4 days.
Is
to
that why
be
you're
able to do
doing it
this
so you
stuff.
don't catch corona?
I was already doing this stuff for like the last year because I heard of some of the immune benefits of it.
Yeah.
And I just do like 1,000 things to not get con crud.
Yeah.
But
I do
And I
follow
was
you
like-
there though, because people can train their minds to do like fantastic, like out of this world. It feels like things sometimes.
what I like about this dude is he's a little nutty, but he's like, this is not woo woo. This is what our bodies can do that is so far out, and we're just barely understanding. Because so he's been he's wanted people to test him and study him, because he's like, look, I don't know how it works. I just know your body does this, and I can train people to do it. So it's a replicable scientific experiment.
Yeah.
And he trains people all the time. And then after like 4 days, they can go hike up to like the top of a mountain in the snow with no shirt on and like shorts, and they can go in submerged water. And the mind blowing thing really beyond all of that was he trained people to be able to inject, like the hospital injected all these people with this bacteria. No one had any symptoms, and it was just didn't even affect them.
That's crazy. I mean,
That reminds
Deadly
me.
bacteria.
I wonder if, like, for years, right, I've been judging these white guys that I see walking around with shorts in the winter.
Oh, the shorts guys.
And meanwhile, they're probably his disciples, you know?
Yeah.
I promise. I had to promise. Like I had to promise Myra. Like I was like, don't. I'm not gonna become shorts guy. There's no like cargo short winter in my future.
She's like, okay. That reminds me of like, I've seen some stuff about like Reiki masters, like using their hands to cure like tumors and stuff like that.
Oh, I saw that in what was that Andy Kaufman movie, Man of the Moon, where he went somewhere and he had cancer.
Well, I never saw that, but yeah.
Yeah, and he went to a similar place. Like, yeah.
That's
Oh,
crazy.
and
I'm not-
that sounds like one of the most bullshit things in the world. And there's people. It's probably one of the most bullshit exploited things in the world with people in like Beverly Hills, like Reiki studios.
Yes.
So
There's
they
like
can
a
heal people over the
freaking
phone.
online university that teaches Reiki right now. Yeah.
I mean that
There
makes
are,
me
like-
think of
I got the delay.
I don't want to say who this is because I don't want to make anyone feel bad, but a friend of ours, someone that they know had breast cancer, and they did a sort of like
Holistic.
holistic method to try to heal it, and it didn't end up working,
Didn't work,
you know,
yeah.
and but at the same time, she also didn't have to go through the pain of the traditional medication,
Right.
you know. But yeah, no, that stuff can be kind of a crazy thing, you know, because you hope that people are not trying to exploit what's the worst of someone's pain, but I think that people are doing that out there, you know.
Well, they got like so like Reiki being exploited like that, but it's just a fact. You got to deal with it or not. You know, like they've videotaped like these monks and these masters doing stuff with
Yeah.
different light frequencies,
Yeah.
and under certain light frequencies, weird shit is happening all over the room, and they're moving light around. So if you think about that, and you think about a more like conventional scientific experiment where they now know like the human body has a magnetic field. They know that the human heart puts out a magnetic pulse. It's about 8 feet in diameter. It's angled at about 45-degree angle from your heart, and it goes out in the room. And people next to each other, it not even looking at each other. If one person's mood change, the magnetic readout on the other person's heart will change, and their brainwave patterns will change. So the idea, like when someone walks in the room and the energy changes, is not woo-woo. It's a real thing. We're just now barely starting to learn how that shit works. So I like to think about that for like sci-fi future stories and stuff. Like we're all concerned with, biometrics and facial recognition and everything else. What if the thing they're laughing at us about 40 years from now, when they look at our sci-fi, is like, dude, they just know from your energy signature. Because now we know that like the human body is this weird ball of energy that manifests, like it's like a program that 3D prints like the cellular mass, and but the body's the whole thing. It's magnetic, it's electrical, it's chemical, it's everything. And they have and they look at us like, oh, we're idiots, you know. That's
That's
so.
that makes me think of just the idea of us being having this energy inside of us, right? What my mind always goes to, and Amy can testify to this, is that I can't stop thinking about what happens when we die, you know? Like the idea of life just ending when the physical body ends, right, is terrifying to me. So what do you think? Does what you're saying tie into our energy going elsewhere after we pass, or what is your take on life after death, you know?
You have to make the title of this podcast like "Shit Gets Weird" real quick.
Yeah.
And that is something a lot of people think about a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm like, it's funny. The more I've learned about this stuff over the years, and the more like cutting edge the science gets, the more kind of spiritual I become.
Definitely.
But it's still a little nihilistic. Like, I kind of think Conan might have had it right with Crom. Like, there's a god, but he doesn't care about you. Like,
Yeah.
I think the whole idea of a clockwork and a program, like, I guess a weird way to look at it, and this is like gonna be very simplistic, but I got a live. There's something called sometimes they call it a dark blood reading. Sometimes they call it a live blood reading. It's where you get your blood sample taken and they look at it under the microscope with all of the little things in there still alive. The blood cells are still moving around, and so there's while that was happening, there's this little white. They're like, oh yeah, this is a little macrophage, a little white blood cell. Oh, now he's like eating something. He's going to eating something, and it just was so trippy to see because I'm sitting like
it's like you're in
6 feet
aquarium.
away from it, and I'm like, that's me, man. Like that's my body. I didn't tell it to do it, and that little guy's in there. Like, does he even know I exist? Like, what's he? But he has a purpose. He's going to doing that. And man, I'm like, and things tend to be holographic. Like they tend to be, they tend to repeat patterns and things. Microcosm and macrocosm. So, do we all kind of have some purpose from some such vastly larger intelligence in the cosmic order of things that we never could understand what it is?
Like, are we like, one of those little cells just chomping along,
And I'm like, well, and like, sounds like we're all high right now, but like, is that
well,
so?
I am high for the record.
So. Is that cell me? Is that me?
Right.
Yeah.
Or it kind of, and then when the more we learn about the human body, like in the last 5 years, they really come to understand that like half your body's not you, half the cells in your body are bacteria and other things. And then when you bring in the idea that we're also electrical and we're chemical. We're not just chemical, we're electrical, we're energy. And that's being affected by things now. So you're like, okay, it's more and more science is going towards the human body is a human, true human thing is the consciousness. And like, I guess if you had to say a easy to explain physical part, it's your nervous system. It's your brain and your eyeballs and your weird like floating like alien spaghetti monster looking part of your body.
Yeah.
And the rest of you is just like you're a host, you're having a party, and you're
it's
like
kind of horrifying.
Yeah, and like that's how now they know just your gut bacteria can change, like they control like I think like half of your what's going on in your brain, serotonin and melatonin chemicals like that. There's they know that like your gut bacteria can affect your weight by like 30%. Like a cow, the way they get a cow to gain weight without spending any more money is without changing its diet is they put a little bacteria and it's an antibiotic in their ear and they gain 30% more weight. Same food.
I'm going vegan now, dude. That's disgusting.
Well, there's a lot of crazy shit in the food industry that makes your stomach churn if you really read into it and look at it.
Yeah.
So what happens then with the
that's like what
when you're looking at like that little cell and stuff, it's like, okay, what all right, you're kind of just a colony. I guess it is. All right, I'm gonna get into the ice bath thing real quick because
I'm doing
one thing that does. And you can edit this stuff out if it goes on too long.
Dude, we don't edit anything.
No,
Last year, so one thing it does a billion different things, but one thing it's doing is it blasts your mitochondria. What are your mitochondria? Your mitochondria are billions of years ago or whatever, when there's little single-celled organisms going around. Mitochondria are like nanobacteria. This is theory, and also I'm talking about this like a lay person, but they're little tiny, super tiny nanobacteria that hijacked like the other larger organisms and created a whole like ring around it. So every single cell in your body, every kind of cell, like they all have a border around them that is the mitochondria. Or they have it within the cell or some, don't quote me on that, but the irony is every single cell in your body has the mitochondria, which is considered part of your cell, but they're really not. It's an ancient micro nanobacteria that hijacked the cell. So your whole body's lined with these little guys, right? And they, so they're kind of like not you. They're kind of like little fucking hackers that came in and helped build you over billions of hundreds of millions of years.
Shout to them,
Yeah. So it's like when you when you have like an instant like reaction, like the hairs go up on your hand, or you just get a weird feeling, or you sense like when that person walks into the room and the magnetic ring from their heart
Yeah.
hits you and the room changes. You know what it is? Sensing that magnetism, that EMF field. It is the mitochondria, and they can prove that now. So they are like the first line of defense that sense everything. So whatever is intuition, whatever is what seems to be like a mystical sixth sense of just knowing when things are going to happen before they do, there may be, and we don't know, but there may be some sensory ability that these mitochondria have to be able to take information around them and sort of form a visual in your mind about it, or a tangible feeling in your mind. And that is the sixth sense. And the more comfortable environment we're in all the time, we
Dulls it kind of.
we get a little numb to it.
Yeah.
A lot of the EMF exposure we're around all the time with cell phone waves and Wi-Fi and everything else probably is affecting it somehow. We just don't know yet. And so it when you and it also is very, very closely related to aging and to your DNA's health and your replication of your DNA. They're vitally connected. So the ice bath thing gets into you're kind of telling those little mitochondria, hey fuckers, I control you. Like I'm the host of this party.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm gonna, you're gonna lose your mind when I get in this water or when I get in this sauna. Like, but you're killing off all the weak ones. They just die off and they're quickly replaced with like newer, healthy ones. And
Okay, yeah, I'm getting it
I
now.
can see that.
I feel like though,
Does it have to be a certain length of shower?
or a certain temperature of water too, because
5
really
minutes?
when it starts off, it's just like you're gonna die after 5 seconds. So you just like
yeah.
your goal, I guess the first major milestone goal, I got this from Dave Asprey from Bulletproof podcast. He's like, goal is like 2 minutes, which is fucking impossible.
It feels like an eternity. I mean, it sounds like there are immense benefits, but my one hurdle is that I feel like I would never fucking do it. I feel like it just would be excruciating, But
It does make sense.
the idea.
What's funny, it doesn't. Tony Robbins, he was like, I heard him saying, he's like, when I get up in the morning, I jump in my ice bag. He has a custom pool built. It's like 4x4, and it's only ice water. And he just wakes up in the morning. He's like, "You're gonna jump in that ice pool." He jumps in.
My
He's like,
goodness.
wakes up my body, and I'm ready to go.
Oh my god, dude!
Now
That'll make you
I'm
stay
like,
here
man,
for
that'd be kind of cool to have.
Yeah,
Now you're into it.
I mean, I bet you feel so good when you come out of it.
Oh, dude, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Your body, you actually get hot. Like you're.
Ugh, it sounds horrible. It sounds fucking horrible.
No, I'm actually gonna try it.
No, you're
Yeah, because
not.
one time when I was younger, I read that it's better for your hair to rinse the conditioner out of your hair with cold water
Really?
for some reason, as opposed to hot.
Yeah.
So like I don't go like ice bath cold, but for a while I would like at the end of my shower just turn it cold.
It's rough.
The other side of it is there's breathing exercises. If you actually do the Wim Hof thing, there's breathing exercises, and I've only done like bare minimum. I've got like probably like 7 years of different meditation experience, so I kind of like mix up my own little recipes and stuff. But every now and then you go down these paths and you basically try a bunch of bullshit and you find stuff that really works.
Yeah.
And then it's funny, no matter how long you do it, you'll find a new thing and you're like, holy shit, that just replaced 5 other things I do. So and then when I literally just found out about this like during the quarantine stuff, maybe right before all the shit really started to go down.
Yeah.
And I did some of his breathing exercises. Is like, man, this is like, I can see where this is like a few other things I had done before, and I would like rotate them every now and then, do them a lot of times if it helped with stress, things like that. And he does everything he does is like, all of it's just like not about concentration, not about anything woo woo. It's just so mechanical and it works so well. So he's all about like breathing in all this oxygen, and then like you just have to watch it, but it's super quick. It's like a couple of minutes to do one round. It's like 20 minutes to do a whole first round, and your body's like, it's weird. it's kind of what it's doing. And I only, if I didn't know the other stuff, I would be like, okay, that sounds interesting, sounds kind of weird. But knowing everything else I'm like thinking of from past research, I'm like, oh, he's activating like this, and I can see how this makes sense that this is happening.
Yeah.
And he's charging up your whole body in a certain way. And if you do those breathing exercises before you do the water, it is not the same as if you do it and you just try to get in the water from scratch.
Yeah.
If you're new to all this, it's gonna be fucking torture no matter what. But
no, it sounds like it. But I mean,
That's really
they
cool.
help. Like, there's releases of all kinds of chemicals and endorphins. In it, you can put up to the test against any antidepressant, and it is amazing results that what it has. Because what's happening is they're actually controlling the your lizard brain. Like for anybody like people refer to the lizard brain. I think that's the medulla, but the first part of the human brain to ever form was like the survival brain. You know, it's just like what's going on. Like we gotta fight or flight, and then they develop the rest of your subconscious over that, and then your prefrontal cortex in the front is where all your truly highly enlightened conscious thought comes from.
Yeah.
But your conscious thought causes you to panic about stuff, and then you set up the primitive lizard brain in the back. And the only way to overpower the lizard brain is by using your prefrontal cortex to tell yourself you're being stupid and get over it.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's not a bear that's coming to attack you. You're stressed out about your bill. It's not going to murder you.
Yeah.
So or your adrenals just burn out and you pass out or something, you get tired. Well, they did all the brain tests on this guy and found he's actually found a way to directly access that lizard brain and control it that way without anything else, to literally tap into your most primitive elements of your brain. And that's the only other people that have been able to show to do that are like these monks that have been doing this stuff, and they, there's probably a lot of ritual assumed with that. That's a lot of bullshit, but it gets them to do these amazing things. And so
that reminds me so much of a tradition of witchcraft where like the meditation is super focused on having 3 different parts. So like how you separated the brain, like the primitive lizard would be like the childlike self, like the super primitive, like not being able to like control, but just like being afraid. And then there's like the regular, like the one of them would be like, I'm not quite sure, but there's like the middle one, and then there's like the higher self. And the point is to be able to get the higher self to be able to communicate with the lower one.
Right.
So basically like keep the lower brain part, like the primitive part, in check.
Yeah.
It's like a very similar type of like meditation and stuff.
No, that does sound. I mean, it's interesting to see the overlap between science and belief
All the time.
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, I always find it all the time.
Because I think that the main defining feature of the human struggle is us between our basic impulses. Like right now, I quarantine has got me really battling with my lizard brain, which really only wants to do nothing but eat chipwiches. And a chipwich is this sandwich that is a chocolate chip cookie on the top and the bottom, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's vanilla ice cream in the middle, and around the edges, it's chocolate chips.
Oh yeah, they're delicious.
And they come 3 to a pack. And whenever I bring home groceries, by the time that Amy sees the chipwiches, right, there's 2 left.
He saves me them, yeah.
And but there's 2 boxes in the garbage, right?
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
I do, yeah.
So no.
Hey, as long as I get some, you're all good.
Yeah, I do feel at war with my desires here too, and I think that maybe what you're saying about just taking control of your body and telling the mitochondria and talking to the lizard brain, talking to the child of what you said, right? And trying to conquer it and showing them who's boss,
Who's in charge, yeah.
But there are fears that I think are rational. Like you were talking, Josh, about how when someone comes into a room, that the energy changes and that you can really register in other people how the energy of a room changes. I wonder how that would be perceived, right? In a grocery store now, when you're walking past someone who might look a little bit like they have some extra bacteria.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've when I've gone shopping, right, it's felt like a game of Frogger. You know, like I am avoiding people at all costs, and they don't. So many people don't seem to care about what's going on. You know, they're really just kind of getting in the way, and they're really they're fucking changing my mitochondria. You know,
They're stressing them out. Yeah.
It is. There's I think it's a Buddhist saying. It's I've never really like gone down that rabbit hole, but it's something called become the observer.
Yeah.
It's talking about yourself, like trying to like just always trying to look at yourself from a like outside perspective. Like that's an interesting little creature. Like why is it doing that? You know, and you know, separate yourself if your brain's in like a negative loop of something. You're like, well, you go ahead and have your little tantrum. Like, you know, go ahead and do what you're gonna do. I'll be here waiting. And just consciously say that to yourself. But it's so weird. What we're learning is all these intuitive things from so long ago, or like we're onto something. And I think like the biggest difference, like if we think of something like Star Trek or something that's like so far out there in the future, it's gonna look a lot more like hippie. But it's gonna be way advanced because they're gonna learn that the human body is capable of all these other things, and like they're gonna learn that when they do all these scenarios to run through AI, like trying to figure out problems to like be like, okay, what if we do all these things? What's the best solution to come up with? You're gonna find out that nature just spent the last like 4 billion years doing that and already figured it out. And you're like, oh, but then you just know how to like speed it up. So things are just gonna come to, you know, they'll find out more things where like the humans have a lot more power that can be amplified that they didn't realize. And a lot of the solutions are going to be
on technology to do for a long time, I guess.
Yeah, like, you know, there might be ways to activate, you know, communication between people or abilities to do stuff that, you know, are still have to be understood to be like done. But all this is like all this going from like writing to going to building the telephone, the first telephone, to building this kind of a device that does all these things. And you might be able to finally get to a level where you barely need anything to do that. You're just all you're trying to do is figure out different ways to communicate. Every single level of technology, you're trying to find a different way to improve a very simple thing. Mm-hmm. And the more advanced it gets, the more simple it sort of comes back to a full circle.
Yeah.
There's a whole theme of I think it's Kevin Kelly, the author, that there's a name for that. It's a whole theory of like how technology evolves over time. It eventually goes back and becomes simple again.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called, but
yeah, it's I often think about how much we can do and how much we've changed as far as technology goes in our lifetimes, and I'm less in awe and more surprised at what we can't do. Like when I heard it's going to take a year or more to get a vaccine out, I was like, okay, that's crazy, because and I don't mean to go lowbrow here, okay? But when I was in 7th grade, if I wanted to see some porn, right, I would have to look for like a stray vagina through a pixelated screen. But now, I have it open in the other tab. Mm-hmm.
I'm like 10 years older, so it's like, I shit you not. And it's funny, like, this was a fucking thing. You would just, if you went to play in the woods, there was just always a little tiny, like, torn off piece of porn in the woods.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, and I grew up and I was like, why the fuck was there always porn in the woods?
Yeah.
It's because little, like, 12-year-olds would get it and then be like, I gotta go hide somewhere. Where do I go? I'll go to the woods.
That's I mean, that's how it was. What we did to kind of like pass around the the pornography lore, so like back in the day, like people would like share stories around the campfire.
Gotcha.
What my friends and I would do is we had this picture of Sailor Moon nude, right? and we would just pass it around in this folder in different classes. Like, say, in math class, Kareem would get to hold Sailor Moon for a while. And then English,
Wow, you guys were sharing her, you know?
Franz gets to hold
Very
Sailor
good.
Moon, you know? And then finally, come history, she's mine for
She's all
35
yours,
minutes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
I
So,
started to selling candy in school.
I mean, so just all that to say, just take the virus out of our blood. You know what?
Just fix it.
You know what I mean?
You're very concerned, it seems.
It's funny to be
I
in
am
a time where
concerned,
you're like, yeah, it's funny to be where like it's so advanced and you're like, and then you find out that like it's gonna take this long for this vaccine, and we really are finding out that we're close and close to finding out the human body may just be able to just zap stuff. So here's something I heard years ago. I never forgot it. Like,
Yeah, imagine if we're all trying to...
someone's gonna correct me some way on this, but
What?
every drug, your body can produce any drug itself.
Even weed?
Any drug that they could give you,
Weed's not
they
a
can
drug.
produce that drug. Well, if your body couldn't be, if a drug affects your body, it means your body has receptors for it. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything other than it might kill you. But
Oh,
right,
I got it. Okay.
so if you get an effect from a drug, it's because you have receptors. The only way you have those receptors is if your body has already been making that chemical for eons. So somewhere in all that woo-woo like meditation and enlightenment and everything is the ability to unlock your body and is ability to make those drugs.
Yo, that's crazy.
That
That's crazy.
Like some of the stuff this Wim Hof guy's getting into is he's finding a way to turn your brain on to make certain like antidepressants and make certain like chemicals. So that's like when you go to bed, they think that's where your body actually makes DMT and you trip out and that's how your dreams come from.
Yeah.
If you could just turn that on any time, you could just be like for 15 minutes.
Dude, if I was a kid
That would be lit.
in a future where that was, I would just be with friends and just like think alcohol thoughts, you know?
So if that's true, if this is true, then that means there is literally no drug they could invent that can do something your body already can't do by itself if you just knew how to make your body do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's so far out of our way of thinking that like 150 years from now, it's like, no, that's the shit they're going to be doing, that they're going to like laugh at us, because right now, I mean, the most cutting edge natural health stuff is people looking at plants and herbs because like I think it's like 80% of drugs are actually made from plants.
Right.
They just extrapolate the one thing they can that they can patent. But if you already understand the herb and what it does, you could take care of it that way. And in like that argument is like trying to tell us the like scientific industry fucking can't stand this thing when they're like, science's problem is, it's like, no, science is a force of, it's a theory, it's a way of doing things. Scientific industries and dogma or whatever you can say, just be specific. But the most valid argument now on the natural side is like, look, we now have the ability to study these herbs and these plants that people have been using for thousands of years, and we're learning that they're amazingly powerful and they can help you in ways that the drugs can't, because the drugs don't understand the thousands of things in here that we don't get yet. But we know that like they're powerful. So the joke 100 years from now is gonna be like, guys, you didn't eat any of this shit from any of it this whole time. You could have just been like, and fixed it. But we'll have some like little computer chip that helps us do that.
Oh my dude, I would love that, to just be having an asthma attack and just go
Breathe it out.
Yeah.
And then we'll all be sitting in our houses going like, now what do? I have no problems.
Fuck, man. Yeah.
I hate my life. I need a problem.
Pat, you should write a story about it, Drew.
No, that does sound, it sounds so good because we also live with cats. And every morning, dude, because I have cat allergies, right? Every morning I wake up, inhaler, 2 allergy pills. Imagine instead I just woke up and I just like sat like fucking like Gandhi for a little while, and I just sort of like it out,
You ever tried the homeopathic method for that?
Oh, definitely not.
The whole like fucking the diluted water.
No, what's that?
Oh, so yeah, homeopathic, holistic, like herbalism, they're all different. And people always say homeopathic is like you are trying to mimic the symptom, because it's like thinks if you have the symptom, then like if you have it when your nose is running, it's because your body is trying to get something out of your nose, out of your sinuses. So if you amplify the runny nose, it'll fix yourself better, faster. So that's kind of what a vaccine theory is, really. So if this crazy, it's like this crazy thing where like they would take a piece of the whatever animal made you allergic, put it in a little vial of might be water or maybe water and alcohol, and then you hump funny parts, hit it against a Bible 100 times.
What?
Hit it against the Bible 100 times.
And then shake it really hard.
And then you take some of that solution and you pour it into another vial of water, so it's diluted, and you hit that against the Bible. But you keep doing that until you do. I forget. You're supposed to do it like 10 times, and then you drink that water. And I have heard people swear that knocks out their allergies.
Hold on, for that day or in general?
I've never fucking tried that. I'm not gonna do it and tell you to do it.
Yeah.
If you die, it's because of you, Josh.
And if you do it, please make sure you hit it against the Bible so it doesn't work.
We don't even, I don't think, have a Bible here.
Well, hold on, because like here's the thing. I do believe in a higher power, but say someone doesn't believe in one at all. Say they're atheists. Could they do that against a Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire?
We don't know.
No.
We don't know. That's not the recipe. Okay.
Yeah, I'll try it out.
No, I don't think you will. Not with the alcohol.
You need streaming content.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Your next podcast is just this.
Because you said 10 times 100. Like, I mean,
the next podcast after that is you like just
fuck.
collapsing from a cat allergy.
That's straight up Bible thumping.
Yeah, it's actually Bible thumping. Yeah.
I think that might be where the name came from.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, because I mean, I do have some practice, but doing this 1,000 times would take so long, you know.
Oh my God.
All right. Before we end, though, because we are, hold on, let me see where we're at.
This is the whole podcast is about.
Let's see where we're at.
I feel sorry for everyone that came on here to talk about
that was
comics.
mad interesting.
No, yeah, that's
this
super cool.
Topic and it is like my shit.
Yeah.
So that was super interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all that. I'm gonna go and look into all of that, no doubt.
Exactly, because we want the guest episodes to not just be about, or maybe be about comics at all.
Yeah, we don't really have a theme here. We just are trying to talk.
Yeah.
So.
Like out of all our upcoming guests, the one I'm most excited for is we might have on a nurse who is in the forefront of all this corona action, you know?
I might even have my little brother call in for an episode in the next coming week because
this guy
he's
is
fucking hilarious.
So funny. So funny.
So
I didn't get into like, what if I could squeeze an Arc World in here?
Go.
The comic about the Atlantean stuff. Like, there's a lot of evidence that coming out in the last few years that the Earth's been under so many disasters in human's history that and there's all these like leftover underground cities and caves that no one can explain, and there's more and more evidence being revealed now that humanity may have had big periods of time in the past, long periods of time in the past, where we had to live in quarantine situations and live in isolation, live in caves, and you know, we may have psychologically had to have dealt with this kind of stuff before for hundreds of years at a time.
Wow.
And like generations at a time. And it might play into why we have this sort of like fascination with doom and gloom. We always feel like something's going to happen. Something's going to come out from the sky and destroy us. And like, not even to think about pandemics. So that's the whole fun. All this stuff, my excuse is always like, well, I'm a writer. This is all just research. I'm just like thinking of scenarios to write about.
No, yeah, I will say Josh is, and this is real, is the most well-researched writer I've ever spoken to.
That's awesome. I love research. I love to read about and learn about new things all the time.
Yeah, you two are similar in that way. And actually, that's been your research into certain things has been a benefit for our writing on Prison Witch, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I am not a researcher at all, dude. That's a weak part of my writing.
You're more an imaginative.
Yeah,
And an emotional writer.
Yeah, I'd say probably more emotional because I like to just imagine my life as the characters as I'm writing them. But I think that my lack of research is a limit that I've put on myself. That in talking to you, I definitely want to. I mean, not even similar topics, but just when I have something that interests me, to dive a bit deeper in, because I definitely I'm a fucking skimmer, dude. You know, I definitely.
Hard part is you become less prolific because you're researching so much.
Yeah.
And, you know, so sometimes I go back and I read stuff that I wrote when I was like 24 years old, and like some of them like I don't like, some of it I'm like, oh man, this is pretty good, you know, you know, but I'll notice like details on shit that's like, well, like if I go back and read the G.I. Joe books I wrote, it's like, Jesus Christ, there's so much I could have done with military industrial complex and how the military really works behind the scenes and conflicts that like it's someone trying to be an honorable soldier is going to have. And no, I didn't know any of that shit.
As a writer too, you know?
Yeah. But then at the same time, you know, sometimes you think of like goofy ideas and stuff you never would have thought of if you were that researched into it.
Right.
So kind of like when you go back and read stuff you wrote when you were like 10, you know.
Yeah, no, I do that sometimes, and like you said, most of the time it's like, oh, I would never show this to anybody. But sometimes there's a kernel of something that you're like, oh, that part is me finding my voice, or that part is something that I could actually use in something else. But before we go, speaking of writing, I do want to ask you, what's going on with Devil's Due during all this? Because right now, for those who are in the comics industry, you kind of know what's going on. But for anyone watching who doesn't know or isn't involved in the comics industry, Diamond Distribution, who runs a monopoly on the comics industry, getting the books from the publishers, the printers, to the stores, right? They're shut down, and they are being outed as not giving final payments to publishers, to certain suppliers. So Diamond is kind of out the game right now. What is the situation now, and how is that impacting you and your business?
Yeah, it's crazy because besides taking ice baths, I am trying to get up and do some work. So Diamond is it's kind of like if there was only one grocery store chain in the whole country and then they went out of business. It's like, I hope you're growing some of your own food in your backyard, you know. So yeah, every comic shop in the country is just shut down. So what we're doing, I'm glad I reacted the way I did a couple of weeks ago. I was like already here. I was like, no, people don't get it. We're shutting down. Like this is gonna. So I pulled a couple books from printing. So I was like, literally like a couple hours before they would have gone to press. I was like, no, let's just hold off. If they go to the retailers, it's not going to matter because a lot of them aren't going to be able to get them out to people.
Right.
And this is like Arc World #1 was going out. It's a brand new series, and the AOC trade paperback was supposed to be going to press too. And my experience with all this, having dealt with the recession in the past, and is in a weird way finding comfort in accepting very quickly how bad this is going to be, and it's going to be way worse than people think.
Yeah. So
I don't say that. It's like I feel like I have to be very careful talking about it because it will sound very pessimistic. But the whole world overnight, people really need to understand it just became day by day. Like, quickly accept the fact that you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and you're just but give yourself faith in yourself that you're going to use the same brain you've always had to figure that problem out.
Yeah.
And right now, May 15th just got put into your day by day category. May 15th is not a medium term plan for you. That's a short term scenario because you don't know what's going to happen, and whatever you try to predict is going to happen, So much depends on the government right now. So much depends on other circumstances. Just don't know.
Yeah.
Save all that brain bandwidth and use it for September, October, November. Try to think about what are all the scenarios that might happen.
Right.
And depending on which one happens, what are you going to do about that one? And then wait. And you sit and you wait. And then you focus on, well, shit, I got to fucking eat tomorrow. It's like, then you do your hustle.
Yeah.
But a hustle is simple. A hustle just to get by is simple, and you're not using all of your brain power, and you're not firing up your brain with stress and turning your lizard brain on all day long. You're just getting by, and then all you do is you can't predict every scenario. The more longer you've been around, the more times you've been through like a rough patch like that, you can probably predict it a little better. And then you just kind of you're just chilling and waiting for one of these opportunities to pop up where you're like, that's it. That's one of the things that's going to work. And then you've got all that energy. You saved it, then you can go. And even if that never comes along, you'll be in a better mental state to be able to do the things we all thought we were going to do. We thought we were all going to sit back, and all those creative types got a little cocky and we're like, yeah, I'm just going to grind right now.
Yeah, I saw a lot of that.
Down. I'm going to grind. I'm going to get out so much stuff. And a lot of people, myself included, found like, I can't write right now, or I can't create right now. There's, again, I don't know if it's some woo-woo thing with all of our consciousness is all too like frazzled as a species right now, or if it's just because, so when that happens, just like give yourself permission to, give yourself permission to be lazy and sit around for a while, and try to set a time limit for yourself, but don't be hard on yourself about it. And where the big problem comes in, where people will just run themselves into like their own stressed out sickness or lose their minds, is when they're trying to plan April 30th, or they're trying to like figure out, okay, what's our May game plan, man? Like, think about how many people 2 weeks ago, when I was like, those books were going to press, were like, they're not really the decision makers in the company, but it's still a small, lean and mean staff. They're all stressed out. No one knows what's happening. And they're just trying to get their job done. So you're the marketing person at some small publisher. You're going to just, all right, I got to do everything I can to get these books to the retailers and get this out. And anyone really looking at the big picture could have said, stop. There's no point in doing that right now. You just wasted a bunch of energy. And it's a fine line, because you can easily like become apathetic and make up an excuse to do nothing. Yeah. So what we're doing is kind of was a blessing in disguise. I had been like ramping some things down with some bigger plans to really kind of actually launch in April. And just it's not going to happen now. It's put on pause. And when we come out of this, I don't know. One scenario is we pivoted a little bit and we actually come back with an even better idea than we had before, and we may be in a really good position to like help reform part of what the new industry is going to look like. Right. We might be gobbled up in some other, with somebody else, if someone else is coming around offering money to companies, if there's 1,000 stores go out of business and half the publishers are gone, and there's someone with the right deal and the right idea, maybe we become part of that. Or maybe not that much happens and we keep, which I think is the least likely scenario.
Yeah, same.
Come back just as we were. I'm like, all right, we're doing our thing again. Yeah. So I was glad not to have a whole bunch of stuff going on and to make quick decisions to kill the things we did have going on.
Right.
Just to be able to be present and be conscious and look out, be observant for the opportunities. So one thing I saw that was like one of those, like, that's it, was this whole Comic Hub thing. Because I've been following that for a couple of years now. And I was like, this is the time. This is going to be huge. If we can pull this off now, and there won't be an opportunity to do this again. And that's a whole other like hour-long podcast. But Diamond, just kind of being able to like soak it all in. Like when Diamond said, they're shutting their warehouses, and fully appreciate like That's never happened before, ever. They've been around for 40 years.
Yeah.
You know? And when I started publishing 24 years ago, you know, there had just been a consolidation of 13 distributors. And it happened very quickly. And then I had to used to solicit to 2 distributors. And then so and it says in 25 years since there looks like within the last week, now Penguin Random House are going to distribute comics. There's some other big book distributors going to distribute comics, and it's like that's a big fucking deal. That has never happened. And then for Diamond to follow up that, knowing that press is already out there, and say they're not going to be able to pay people so quickly, is another big deal. So every time something like that happens, it should tell you, like, if you're busting your ass to try to plan out something for like 2 weeks from now, like, slow down, man. Like, just so
Like
if you're a creator,
change, yeah.
ironically, the number one thing to do now would just be to create stuff. Just keep churning on stuff.
Yeah.
And why I said ironically is because seems surprisingly hard to do now. We are all like the work from home champs, you know?
Yeah, it's I've had this hasn't been my most productive 2 weeks when the assumption is that it would be. But I've been I actually made a weird change. I usually have my computer down here and I write on the couch. I recently moved it back to the office upstairs for writing to kind of like take myself out of my comfort atmosphere,
Yeah,
you
split
know?
your day up a little bit more.
Exactly, yeah. And that's worked pretty well. So, yeah, what I would say to anyone looking to kind of up their productivity, one, yeah, don't hold yourself to the I'm in quarantine, I should be creating nonstop standard. But if you do feel unfulfilled with what you're creating, create a change for yourself. Because when I would be writing at home in the past and I would feel in a rut, I would go to like a Panera and drink coffee and write there.
Yeah.
Find a peaceful place in your home, you know, and you might live in a closet-sized New York City apartment. So maybe just turn around and write backwards.
It could be
You know
as
what I
simple
mean?
as
No,
just
for real, like-
facing another way.
Yeah, yeah.
Just change it. Like, I honestly, like, I had been, it's funny because it's like, I was like, for the last couple of months before all this happened, I was already feeling like just, I need to change my routine somehow. I go through spurts like that every few years. And I was like, got to change the studio around. I need to like something, and I was meaning to do it. And then, so when this all hit, I was like, I can't focus on anything, you know? So now I just rearranged some stuff and it feels way better.
Yeah.
And, you know, yeah, I mean, I've always been like, I used to have to, like, when I was a teenager and I would still write comics at home, you know, when I was getting serious about it, but still doing it for fun. I'd have to get up in the morning and I'd get up and ride my bicycle and go get like a big giant soda pop and then ride home. And I felt like I got out and came back and now I'm ready to work. And I'm still like that, you know, all these years later. And it's so that's another thing. Like, there's never been anything like this virus. Like, I've never been in a situation where I can't go out and drive around or go walk, you know, go hit some places and then come home or go some places and work. But it's just like, as a human animal, like, ritual is important. Like,
it really is.
It's weird. You wonder why there's all these weird, dumb rituals we have in society. And then when you kind of start to look at the root of it all, it's like, no, it's kind of important to have rituals, because when the weird time happens, you find that, like, oh, the weird thing that breaks it all is you lose those rituals. It's like you're going to instinctively have them anyway. So you might as well be conscious of them. You have conscious rituals that you do. And that's, I think, where a lot of like societal cultural rituals come from. But I kind of just, over time, I've read some stuff about this too. It made me think more about it.
Yeah.
But like, I do all kinds of stuff. Like, got into like the other weird shit we talked about. But I have a whole protocol of stuff that I do. Doesn't mean I do it every day, but it's like a toolkit. So sometimes I'll fuck off and not do it for months, you know? But when all of a sudden I feel off, it's like, you know what? I need to get back at it. That is everything from certain types of like journals where you ask yourself certain questions. That's meditation. That's a gratitude journal. which is amazingly powerful. If you have a book where all you're allowed to do is write in it is stuff you're grateful for, no matter how trivial or how important. You can have like a bitch fest journal where you just vent, but this one you're only allowed to write gratitude. That will change your whole day if you do that in the morning if you're feeling shitty. Then there's everything from exercises to like so right now I get up, I'm pretty much forcing myself to it's this dumb thing. This goes into like the military. This goes back like 2,000 years. Make the bed, which sounds so stupid, but it's like make the bed. There's something psychological about it.
I've heard that.
I've been limited on my sweatpants allowance.
So you get real actual pants on?
Yeah, it's fancy t-shirt and jeans, but like at least it's like no, dude, you got to put on the t-shirt and jeans and shoes, and then I take a certain amount of vitamins and supplements, especially important now. But I love making my coffee, but do that and then go and I've been making myself hit one of those like journal or meditation combos, something. And if I do that, my days is different.
Yeah. And
there's also a thing like reflecting on it later on at night. So, and it's funny, it sounds silly, but then like, it's funny, you can just, once you get it like you get your brain wired that way, then you can kind of screw off. You know when I don't write in my gratitude journal or I don't do any of this other stuff is when things are going fine. And I'm like, yeah, let's keep going.
Yeah.
Now, if you do it while everything is going great and you're super proactive and disciplined about it, it has amazing benefits. It's just hard to stick to that rhythm.
Totally.
Yeah,
like, if you feel shitty, man, it's like sometimes I would if I felt just down and shitty, I would dress really nice.
Yeah. Just
like for psychology. So it's interesting. I haven't done that yet at home, but it'd be funny to do that at home. If you feel like poor or if you're stressed about money, go buy something for yourself. Don't be an idiot, but just go buy something. Go buy a shirt or something. It's like all these weird little hacks for your psychology.
That's interesting. Yeah, I felt the benefit of that recently, and I mean, I hope this doesn't sound reckless, but obviously this is a financial crisis, with the coronavirus. One day, for one whole day, right? I was thinking in my head, at the beginning of every month, I'll buy coins from the Pokemon Go shop, right? This month, in April, I'm not going to buy those coins. And then April 1st, I said, nope. Nope.
You deserve it because you haven't been able to go out to play Pokemon either. So
yeah,
you've been using anything that you can to play from home.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, what you're saying about the gratitude cycles, that really does, that kind of hits hard because I've noticed with myself when I'm in a bad state of mind, that's when I'm trying to get myself out. But some of the times that my good state of mind expires is because I'm not nurturing that good state of mind. I'm enjoying it while I have it. And then by the time that I think, I should try to keep this up, it's over, and I'm just again trying to escape a sort of less enjoyable state of mind.
And it seems like the big gap is like people have self-conscious about self-work because there's so much hokiness associated with it, but like there's something to like writing stuff down. Like you have to write stuff down.
Dude, yeah, that's why we do this shit.
You can't just think it. There is some meditation stuff where you think gratitude meditations, but writing down is like, this is another thing they now know from thanks to science, especially in the last 5 years. Like you cannot, when they measure your brainwave, you cannot be angry or grateful at the same time. Your brain cannot do it.
Okay. Yeah.
You cannot be fearful and grateful at the same time. Like the brain literally won't work that way. So when you start writing the gratitude, your brain has, and that's why writing, like you can't, if you're writing it down, your whole brain has to focus on it.
Wow.
And if you spend a whole page right? And the gratitude, it's like your brain literally just had to spend that much time not being in that other negative state.
Yeah.
And really, all you're trying to do is reset your parasympathetic nervous system from its like loop it's stuck in.
Yeah.
And if it just gets you out of that loop, now sometimes that'll last 10 minutes and you'll go be pissed off immediately. But it's amazing when it works. You're like, this is stupid how powerful this is. And another one,
No, that's good to know though. Yeah.
yeah, another one I don't do as often, but I get it and it does work, is negative visualization. And like, if you're obsessing over some like fears,
Yeah.
stress, like write them all out on paper. And it's like, again, this is where writing is extremely important. The thinking is the problem when it comes to the fear stuff. But write them out, and then write out the consequences and the likelihood of those consequences. So like a good example of, if someone's stalking you, trying to kill you, like, yeah, that's probably a real concern.
Yeah.
But if you're like, oh, I'm stressed out because the fucking checks aren't coming and I'll rent, like what's probably gonna happen? Well, I might not be able to pay these bills right now. Well, okay, then what would happen? Well, nothing for a month.
Yeah.
Then what would happen? Well, nothing for another month. Oh, well, then I would get a letter. Oh, well, then what would happen? All the way down to like, oh, I'll get this dinged on my credit. And then like all the way down to like, our fears are all really at the end of the day, oh, I'm going to die.
Right. Oh,
so.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah.
If you write that out, and then, once you get into like 3 months from now and you're like, nothing's even happening yet, your brain's just like, oh, I'm going to figure shit out by then.
Yeah.
So, I haven't done those as much, but I got a lot of that from Stoic Philosophy. Like, I love Stoic philosophy books.
Yeah.
Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, Ryan Holiday is the guy who writes a lot about those. And it's just like 2,000-year-old writings from Rome about just getting through life. And it's not religious.
Yeah.
And it sounds so relevant to today. Like, they're talking about like having too many clients, their job, and not paying attention to their family, or they're talking about getting stressed out with so many things going on day to day and not focusing on what matters at their house, or they're talk about people being obsessed with fame. And just, it's so trippy when you read it. Like, you could just place like certain things with like Kardashian and certain things with like coronavirus, certain things with like social media. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And I like reading stuff that's like, if it's 2,000 years old, what are the problems and then things that they had back then that were superficial, or just like that they were just trying to deal with, that still exist? Because that means it's not going away. That means when you're writing about something 1,000 years from now, that's the problems humans are still going to have for those characters.
That's crazy. That reminds me of that meme from Dragon Ball Z where it says, this isn't even my final form, so our problems have just been changing forms for centuries. And I do. I think that any writing that speaks to the human condition should last the test of time. But it's kind of scary to know that our fears will also sort of shapeshift over time. But I do. We have to wrap up in like 2 minutes, though.
Because we have to call your mom still.
Yeah, my mom has been, she's locked down. And I'm just making sure that she doesn't get any visitors or anything. I'm just trying to keep her, call her C-free,
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, do you have any closing words, anything to promo or anything?
Well, I'm going to start doing some content myself. Go check out my Facebook page, Josh Blaylock. Devils Do Comics. It's facebook.com/Devils Do Comics. We're going to probably I'm trying to do some simultaneous IG streams on the Devils Do Instagram. And then just get the hang of this.
Yeah.
And just kind of start sharing stuff we're creating.
Right.
And then, I don't know. I guess I would end it on saying, like, all this aside, I've never been more excited about the comic book medium.
Damn, okay. I mean, that's good to hear. Yeah.
Comic books. This podcast isn't just about that, but I was looking at something here. Right before this, like 2 weeks before all this shit went down in the Comics Pro Summit, the data coming out for like how many millions and millions of children are coming in to read comics now is unprecedented. Like it's as unprecedented as the coronavirus epidemic. And there's manga is like 25% of the industry again. Superheroes are now 10% of the genre. Superhero genre is 10% of the medium. If you like doing cool indie shit outside of the superhero genre, now's the time. So and there's growth in the standard comic market too. So our future has never looked brighter. Like, I mean, it's wild.
That's great. I mean, that's a great message of hope to hear.
The market and the comic shops, we don't know what's going to happen in the next year.
Yeah, who does know? And I think that a lot of people kind of mistake comics for meaning exclusively the comics to retailer industry. I had a buddy of mine, and I'm not going to say his name, even though I want to so fucking bad. He called me up like, Pat, is this the end? And I was like, no, bitch, no. You know? So it's good to hear a message of hope from you. And dude, as far as you making the content goes, I feel like you are 10 steps ahead. Like, I do like our homie look here, but we're on episode almost 80, and you're looking good, man. Josh, Ice Block Blaylock, I'll call him,
Heck yeah.
My problem is I don't know. I want to talk. What I actually want to talk about is more is like I don't know, one thing about a comic we're working on, and then talk about weird shit like
yeah, man, of course,
totally.
And then talk about here's all the supplements I take today, and the next day it's about here's all my books on the financial history of the financial system.
Of course,
and then you go into like this episode's about ancient aliens.
Yeah, dude, that's what people want. People don't want topics; they want you. They want to hear an original voice. That once you connect, people aren't going to give a fuck what you're talking about. Like, and that's in a good way.
Yeah, like they'll be interested in it, whatever it is.
Yeah, like we probably haven't talked about comics in 15 or so episodes. So, dude, yeah,
I hate comic podcasts where the only thing that's talked about is comics, and like I shouldn't say hate because I'm on some of those and I do like to go on there and talk about them, but like I just it's because I guess that's because like that's not my release. Like I'm in comics all day long,
dude, 100%.
You know, so like when you're like gonna kick back, like you want to talk about other stuff.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, and when I go on those podcasts, part of me is like, oh, it's cool that they're gonna promote my work, and the other part is be like, sup nerds, you know?
Hey, dweebs. Me and my wife are trying to bring back the word dweeb.
No, dweeb's a good one, man.
It's got a power to it.
He called you dweeb?
Dweeb and doofus, yeah.
Oh, I mean, that one's gonna write, you know?
My sister called me a dweeb the other day, or called someone else a dweeb, and I was like, oh, it's in the ether now.
Yo, honestly, right now, and this is where we'll end it, but this is real. I just had the hardest deja vu of this interaction right here. I'm telling you, we've lived this life before.
Oh my god.
True. If we haven't,
I bet Josh has a scientific explanation.
We're stuck in one of those underground caves during the quarantine after the Younger Dryas Comet hit.
Oh man. All right, man. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I'm not blaming you being late to your mom's on me.
Oh no. It's all good.
No.
Yeah, she's probably playing Pokemon Go right now. I got her hooked.
Watching some Judge Judy or something that she recorded.
Oh yeah.
Dude, how many like boomer generations now are gonna finally start to use some of the digital stuff we've been playing with?
Oh yeah.
For the last
that being said, like we just taught her FaceTime for this. Remember?
We did teach her FaceTime, but dude, she always starts it. The first frame of the FaceTime is always her ear. You know?
Hey, we're the tech boomer, man. We're coming out with some tech boomers after all this.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, you know what I just thought of? We should make our own little community on Zoom, right? It's called Boom on Zoom, where like boomers do a dating network on Zoom.
Aww.
Oh yeah.
Boom Zoom.
Oh yeah. All right, man.
Anyways.
Thank you, sir.
Good night.
Thanks for having me.
Space between.